The world was stunned. Italy and Hungary, both long-standing members of the European Union and NATO, had officially joined BRICS+. This was not just a diplomatic headline, it was a seismic shift in the global order, a move that few had predicted, and even fewer truly understood. The announcement sent shockwaves through the corridors of power in Europe and beyond as leaders scrambled to make sense of what had just happened. Headlines blared across New York, Tokyo, and Brussels. December 12, 2025, marked the day the post-Cold War order cracked. News tickers flashed urgent updates, analysts debated the consequences, and the world's attention zeroed in on Europe. The sense of disbelief was palpable, as if the ground beneath the Western alliance had suddenly shifted. This wasn't just a diplomatic move, it was a political earthquake. Lawmakers in parliaments across Europe were left speechless, while diplomats exchanged anxious glances behind closed doors. The very foundations of European unity seemed to tremble as the implications began to sink in. Global markets panicked. The euro plunged to its lowest level in years, stocks tumbled across European exchanges, and investors scrambled to grasp the implications. Financial analysts warned of a new era of uncertainty, as the stability that had defined Europe for decades was suddenly in question. The ripple effects were felt from Frankfurt to Wall Street, as traders tried to predict what might come next. What did this mean for the EU and NATO, pillars of European unity and security? For decades, these institutions had been the bedrock of the continent's peace and prosperity. Now, their future seemed less certain than ever, as leaders faced the daunting task of holding the alliance together. Italy and Hungary's decision was a direct challenge to the Western-led system that shaped the world since the Soviet Union's fall. It was a bold statement that the old alliances were no longer sacred, and that new partnerships were possible, even necessary, in a rapidly changing world. The message was clear. The old rules no longer applied. Treaties and agreements that once seemed unbreakable were now being questioned, even discarded. The sense of certainty that had defined Europe's post-war era was giving way to a new, unpredictable reality. This was the culmination of years of shifting economic power from west to east, north to south. The rise of new economic giants had been underway for decades, but now the balance was tipping decisively. The world's financial and political centers were moving, and Europe was no longer at the heart of the story. China's rise is central, but so is the growing confidence of India, Brazil, South Africa, and others. These nations, once seen as emerging markets, now stood shoulder to shoulder with the world's most powerful economies, demanding a greater say in global affairs. These nations, once emerging, are now major players, building their own institutions and rules. New financial systems, trade agreements, and diplomatic alliances were being forged, challenging the dominance of the West and offering alternatives to countries seeking a different path. Italy and Hungary are betting on this new future. By aligning themselves with BRICS+, they hope to secure economic opportunities, political influence, and a seat at the table of a new world order. It's a gamble, but one they believe is worth taking. For the EU, this is an existential crisis, worse than Brexit or the euro crisis. The departure of two key members threatens the very fabric of the Union, raising fears of further defections and a possible unraveling of decades of integration. Two members have signaled their future may lie outside the Western club. Their departure is more than symbolic. It's a warning that the European project is no longer immune to the forces of division and change. Brussels faces tough questions. Has the EU become too rigid, too bureaucratic? Has it failed to deliver prosperity and security to all its members? Citizens and politicians alike are debating whether the Union can adapt, or if it's destined to fracture further. Italy and Hungary's move is a symptom of a deeper fracture, a consensus breaking under new global realities. The unity that once defined Europe is now under strain, as old certainties give way to new divisions. The European project, once unshakable, now faces its most serious internal test. The coming months will determine whether Europe can reinvent itself, or if this fracture will widen into a permanent divide. The world is watching as Europe's unity unravels, Every decision, every debate is being scrutinized, not just by Europeans, but by people everywhere who understand that what happens here will shape the future of the global order. In a stunning turn of events, both Washington and Brussels were rocked to their core by the unexpected defection of Italy and Hungary. The news sent shockwaves through the corridors of power, leaving leaders scrambling to understand the full implications. For the United States, the prospect of a fractured Europe is nothing short of a strategic nightmare. The decades-old foundation of a united transatlantic partnership, painstakingly built since World War II, is now suddenly in doubt. The sense of stability that once defined Western alliances is rapidly eroding. The G7, long seen as the anchor of Western economic and political cooperation, is now deeply undermined. With two of its members defecting to join a rival bloc, the very relevance and unity of the group are being called into question. Italy's decision to break ranks is nothing less than a seismic shift. As a founding member of both the EU and NATO, Italy's move challenges the very core of the Western alliance system and sends a powerful message to other nations considering their own positions. Meanwhile, Hungary's official pivot away from the liberal order marks a dramatic turning point. No longer content to simply dissent from within, Hungary is now openly charting its own course, signaling a broader realignment in European politics. In response, emergency meetings erupted across NATO headquarters and the European Commission. Leaders gathered behind closed doors, urgently debating how to respond to this unprecedented crisis and what it means for the future of the alliance. Suddenly, leaders who once dismissed the BRICS alliance as irrelevant or toothless now see it as a primary threat to Western dominance. The balance of global power is shifting before their eyes. Across Europe, reactions are deeply divided. Some call the defections a betrayal of shared values, while others see them as a necessary wake-up call to address long-standing grievances and adapt to a changing world. The West's long-held assumption that economic ties would guarantee political loyalty has now collapsed. Markets are rattled and trust between allies is at an all-time low. In this new reality, countries are choosing partners based on their own national interests, not on shared ideology or history. Pragmatism is replacing old loyalties and alliances are becoming more fluid than ever before. The moves by Italy and Hungary signal the dawn of a new era, one of a la carte diplomacy where nations pick and choose their alliances on an issue-by-issue basis, rather than adhering to rigid blocs. The world stage is now more complex and unpredictable than ever before. Every day brings new developments, and the old playbook no longer applies. The certainties that defined the Cold War era and the brief unipolar moment that followed are now gone. The world is entering uncharted territory. A new, fiercely competitive global landscape has arrived, one where power is contested, alliances are in flux, and the future is anything but certain. Italy and Hungary joining BRICS Plus is a direct challenge to the post-W2 global order built by the US and its allies. Institutions like the UN, IMF, World Bank, and G7 were designed to serve Western interests. Now, rising powers argue these institutions no longer represent them. BRICS emerged to give these nations a voice and build alternatives. NATO faces an identity crisis. How can it function when members align with rivals? The unipolar moment is over. Power is now diffuse, with multiple centers. Old rules are breaking down, new ones aren't yet established. The transition is loud, disruptive, and risky. Why did Italy and Hungary take this leap? For Italy, it's economic frustration, years of stagnation, high debt, and EU-imposed constraints. Italians see BRICS as a chance for new markets and investment, free from Brussels orthodoxy. Hungary's move is political, a rejection of EU values, a pivot to Eastern opening, and a bid for independence. Both see BRICS as the nucleus of a new global system, with financial institutions like the New Development Bank offering alternatives to the IMF. Integration with China's Belt and Road promises jobs and modernization. It's a calculated risk, betting on BRICS for economic revival and autonomy, despite anger from traditional allies. They're trading the security of the old club for a seat at the new table. Whether this gamble pays off remains to be seen. Italy and Hungary's move is part of a global shift from unipolarity to multipolarity. For decades, Washington was the world's center of gravity. Now the rise of the rest is reshaping the landscape. China's economic surge is matched by India's tech boom, Brazil's resources, and the assertiveness of Indonesia, Nigeria, and others. These nations want to be rule makers, not rule takers. Ironically, Western-led globalization enabled their rise. As their power grows, so does their ambition for a greater say in global affairs. The new reality competition and cooperation coexist. Nations form flexible coalitions, not rigid blocs. A country might be a US security partner, a Chinese trade partner, and a member of a regional group with both. Diplomacy is harder, the world less predictable. The era of simple choices is over. Multipolarity is here to stay. To truly understand the significance of this moment in world history, we must first grasp what BRICS is and why it matters so much today. Originally coined as an investment acronym by a Goldman Sachs economist, BRICS has evolved far beyond finance. It became a powerful political platform uniting Brazil, Russia, India, China, and later South Africa. 5 major emerging economies from different continents, each with its own unique strengths and ambitions. BRICS is more than just a club. It's a coalition of major, non-Western powers determined to reshape and reform the global system, challenging the dominance of traditional Western institutions. Together, BRICS nations represent over 40% of the world's population, nearly half of humanity, and command a rapidly growing share of global GDP, making their influence impossible to ignore. Unlike NATO or the European Union, BRICS isn't a military alliance or a tightly integrated economic bloc. Instead, it's a flexible forum for dialogue, economic cooperation, and advocacy for a multipolar world order where no single power dominates. One of its key achievements is the New Development Bank, which funds vital infrastructure projects across the developing world, providing an alternative to the IMF and World Bank and giving member countries more control over their own destinies. In recent years, BRICS has expanded into BRICS+, welcoming energy giants like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, as well as strategic players such as Egypt and Iran, further boosting its global reach and economic clout. The entry of Italy and Hungary, both European nations, breaks the traditional East-West divide and signals that BRICS is becoming a truly global group, open to diverse perspectives and interests. Today, BRICS stands as a direct competitor to the G7, the group of advanced Western economies. With members now hailing from inside the G7 itself, the lines between old alliances and new ones are blurring. BRICS is no longer just an alternative to Western-led groups. It has become a central player in global power politics, shaping the future of international relations and economic development. The balance of power is shifting before our eyes, as BRICS continues to grow and redefine the rules of the global game. The US and EU reacted with disbelief and anger, calling Italy and Hungary's move a betrayal. Behind the outrage was confusion. BRICS was underestimated. Now it's a real force. In Washington, it's seen as a diplomatic failure and a win for China and Russia. The US may review its ties with Italy and Hungary. Some call for sanctions. The EU faces an existential crisis. 2 members now have divided loyalties. Decision-making in Brussels will be even harder, especially on China and Russia. The world is watching. Many in the global south see this as defiance against Western dominance. America's other allies are worried, questioning the durability of the US-led alliance. The global order is more uncertain than ever. 2 European nations joining BRICS+ redraws the map of global trade and finance. The world economy, long built around the US dollar, is fragmenting. Italy and Hungary will shift trade toward BRICS partners, integrating into new supply chains. BRICS aims to reduce dollar dependence. Italy's participation gives this effort new momentum. New payment systems and even a BRICS reserve currency are now plausible. Tech competition will intensify, with Italy and Hungary engaging more with Chinese technology. This challenges the EU's digital market and NATO's security concerns. Global supply chains will realign along political lines, increasing complexity and risk. The era of a single global market is ending. Rival blocs are shaping a new age of economic competition. The world stands at a crossroads. Italy and Hungary's BRICS move has shattered old certainties, plunging us into profound uncertainty. Will multipolarity bring stability and innovation, or chaos and conflict? Optimists see a more democratic, equitable world, with reformed institutions and pragmatic alliances. Pessimists warn of instability, power vacuums, and the risk of new Cold Wars. The rules are unclear, the risks high. The actions of leaders in Washington, Brussels, Beijing, Rome, and Budapest will shape the outcome. Can they manage this shift peacefully, or will rivalry prevail? December 2025 posed the question: can the world adapt to a new order? The post-Cold War era has begun, defined by uncertainty.